Oh, hello everybody. It's been a while. School started and I got a little bit of a writer's block. I've been busy over here with teaching and volleyball practice and football practice. And so I haven't seen you in a little while. So I miss everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody's September is going well. I thought I'd bring a quick show to you today because, again, it's been a while and I've been feeling a little bit guilty that I haven't done something like this for everybody. So I thought today I'd simply share what we were doing in class for the last couple of days. So I'm teaching civics economics to sophomores this year. First part is civics, then we get into some economics later on in the semester. And so I opened up originally for the first couple of days we did citizenship. I give the kids the citizenship test. They always get freaked out to see how much they don't know, even though most of them were born here and were citizens by birth. So I give a citizenship test. We talk about the responsibilities of citizenship, etc. And then I get into the Constitution, and we get our hands dirty. We break down the Constitution. So I like to start with the kids talking about the beginnings, after the Revolution, after we break away from England. The first government that we had was called the Articles of Confederation. Before the Constitution, we had the Articles of Confederation. And you have to understand that our founding fathers were still a little bit paranoid. And they had just fought a war against the greatest power on earth, England. And King George was still heavy on their mind. So when they got together to form this first government, this early government of the United States of America, it was weak. The Articles of Confederation were weak on purpose because they didn't think a strong central government was a good idea at that point. Let's talk about the Articles of Confederation. When they were established, there were some things that we take for granted with the Constitution today that the Articles of Confederation didn't really handle real well. So, with taxes, the levying of taxes, in the Articles of Confederation, Congress was not able to request the states to pay the federal government any taxes at all. Okay, that would, of course, be a weakness because the government had no money on which to run. The federal court system did not exist under the Articles of Confederation. Trade, there were no provisions for trade, international trade within the Articles of Confederation. The states were allowed to do that. There was no executive branch in our initial government system. Again, there was some paranoia about one person having too much power, and an executive branch resembled to the founding fathers King George again. So there was no executive branch. The power came directly from Congress. To amend a document in the Articles of Confederation, you had to have 13 out of 13 of the original states. So obviously that would have been hard to change the document to make any amendments. Each state had one vote, regardless of its size, in the original Articles of Confederation. Congress could not draft an army or get troops. It was up to the states to contribute an armed force under the Articles of Confederation. There was no regulation of interstate commerce. Trade between the states under the Articles of Confederation was not regulated. And there was a very complicated system of arbitration for states to settle arguments between themselves. There was, again, no federal court system that would help in that process. So you see, the Articles of Confederation had weaknesses. And it was very obvious early on that we needed another form of government. And there were early rebellions. Shays' Rebellion, is a good example of some farmers in Massachusetts that had to pay far too much in taxes and were in debt. And the farmers, Shay, organized a group to combat this physically. the state of Massachusetts asked the federal government, which didn't exist, the Articles of Confederation, asked the Congress for help in putting down Shays' Rebellion, and then Congress really wasn't able to help. And so Shays' Rebellion showed that the Articles of Confederation had certain weaknesses that had to be fixed. So how do you fix that? You start another form of government, right? And so in the summer of 1787, 55 delegates, only Rhode Island was the only of the 13 original states that did not send delegates. 55 delegates went to Philadelphia, and for 5 hot summer months, they worked on, they were going to fix the Articles of Confederation. Instead, they came up with a whole new document, the Constitution of the United States. And some of the important founding fathers that had been involved in the Revolution and the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, they were serving out of the country. They were diplomats at that point. So they weren't really involved. George Washington presided over the affair. He was the leader of the group that was meeting to form the Constitution. And you've got James Madison as a major contributor, Alexander Hamilton. From Delaware, we have Jacob Broome, we have John Dickinson, we have Gunning Bedford, we have George Reed, and then the final delegate from Delaware, oh my goodness, his name is escaping me. It'll come back to me in a second. It'll come back to me. Can you imagine? It's been a long day. So they met in Philadelphia for 5 hot months, and they came up about with the Constitution. And the Constitution fixed many of the weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation. So taxes could now be levied. Federal court system was established. The executive branch was established. Trade rules and laws were established. To amend the document, of course, 2/3 of both houses of Congress plus 3/4 of a state legislature under convention, that was established under the Constitution, et cetera, et cetera. And again, the Constitution itself, which I make the students get involved with, I have them break down the document, article by article, section by section, clause by clause. And it takes a period plus a little bit of homework. But my students, when they're done, they've gone through the entire document. They've highlighted all of the different segments of the document, what goes what, all of that is done. And just to remind everybody, I have my little cheat sheet here, So Article 1 deals with the legislative branch. It's Congress, the House, the Senate, how laws are made, where the powers go, different powers delegated to Congress, which powers go to the states. That's all under the legislative branch under Article 1. And there are 10 sections under Article 1. Article 2 is the executive branch. The office of the president and vice president, powers granted, duties of the president, removal of office is in Section 4. Article 3 establishes the judicial branch, the federal courts, the power of the federal courts. It also discusses treason in Section 3. Article 4 is relations among the states, and that talks about states' rights, trade between the states. Article 5 talks about how to amend the Constitution, the process of amending. Article 6 talks about debt, federal supremacy, oaths of office. And then Article 7 talks about ratification. Then you have the amendments. In the first 10, of course, the Bill of Rights, freedom of religion, speech, press, freedom to bear arms, quartering soldiers, freedom from unreasonable searches and seizures, etc., etc. Amendment 13, of course, outlaws slavery. Amendment 14 outlines the rights of citizens. 15 is voting rights. 16 is income tax. Remember, prior to 1913, there was no income tax. And so that amendment took care of that. 17 is the election of senators. Amendment 18 was prohibition. Of course, the making of alcohol illegal. 19 was women's rights, right to vote, etc. 20 was terms of office. 21, the repeal of prohibition. So we had to make an amendment to get rid of an amendment. And of course, prohibition opened itself up to all kinds of problems. What initially probably started as a well thought out plan because of the evils of alcohol, etc., opened up a whole can of worms, organized crime, bootlegging, etc. And so prohibition, a very good example of an amendment that does not work out. And so another amendment has to come to get rid of it. Number 22 was the limiting the president to 2 terms. Of course, that comes because of Roosevelt and Roosevelt's tenure in the White House. District of Columbia was Amendment 23. It outlines elections for Washington, D.C. Poll taxes weren't ended until 1964 under the 24th Amendment. Presidential succession is outlined in the 25th Amendment. The 26th Amendment was 1971, and that gives voting rights to those 18-year-old citizens. Prior to that, it was 21. And the Vietnam War had a lot to do with that. During the protests for the Vietnam War, a lot of people were questioning, hey, you got to be 21 to vote for the president, but at 18, the president can send you overseas and serve your country. And so the 26th Amendment came because of that. And of course, the last amendment was 1992, and that was limits on salary changes for politicians, for congressional members, etc. And so I make my students go through all that. We'll study some of the amendments, particularly the Second Amendment and the First Amendment and the 14th, and a few other ones we'll go a little deeper on. But for the last few days, they've just been, again, getting their hands dirty, scratching around, and trying to really break down our Constitution. Richard Bassett, by the way, was number 5 for Delaware. I knew he'd pop in my head. Bassett, Jacob Broome, George Reed, Gunning Bedford, John Dickinson. Those are our 5 Delaware delegates to sign the Constitution. And we'll plow through this for a few more days. And then my next chapter in civics is politics. And maybe we'll do a little show on that. So we the people, we're behind me. Here, I'll do a reading of the preamble for good old times. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States. So there's Rufo Social Studies. Summer's over. We're here. We're in full swing. We've been in school for a couple weeks. I'm back, and we'll do some more shows. I still got friends of mine lined up. We had a couple shows on the burner, and then, here we go. We're back to school. So I still got some friends of mine that have agreed to do some shows with me, and we're going to schedule some stuff. Got the Big Horseman show about Brandywine Racetrack and horse racing, particularly harness racing. I got a driver coming in named Victor, a good buddy of mine. I got a buddy of mine named Tommy. He and I are going to talk about Brandywine Springs Amusement Park, a turn-of-the-century amusement park right down the road here. So that's more of a local Delaware thing. Got a railroad show coming. Got a lot of friends that want to chime in, and I'm looking forward to it. We just got to find the time. So we will, and I thank you for hanging in there with me. I miss everybody. Take it easy, have a good time. Let me know how you've been too, okay? And I'll talk to you later. Checking out from C209 at Del Castle Social Studies class. Have a great day, everybody. And now we're going to shut her down. Bye-bye.